both of whom potentially may have had a role in the shooting of Antonio Santiago, is highly relevant. It goes to their motive and their bias, Your Honor, particularly when one of them is already telling the other, don't talk about the case.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go back.
It's all right for the jury.
There it is. It finally came out.
You see it, please.
Microphone back on. Okay. Now, the court, of course, is at a very big disadvantage because I don't know the good faith basis for asking some of these questions. I'm assuming that you have a good faith basis. And are you telling me that are you questioning her? The court will allow you to ask a question of her, of anything she said to the police, if it's relevant to this case.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, now, but I'm not going to go into
third persons.
Well, no, third person. We're not going to take these collateral issues. If you think that the rule is pretty clear. If a witness is on the stand, testifies under oath to a collateral fact that the cross-examiner believes in good basis, false, the cross-examiner may confront the witness with the contradiction, but must accept the witness's answer. Now, you may think that we may have to get into some discussions whether or not something is collateral or non-collateral.
You know, we also have a constitutional confrontation clause issue independent of the evidentiary rule to which the court is referring.
Yeah, but you asked questions concerning the court, and I wanted the jury to be taken out, is that you started talking about what the police knew about Luis Santiago. And how does she know what the police know?
Your Honor, she filed the police reports.
You know.
Your Honor, if she filed the police report, I think it's fair to assume she knows what she said.
Okay, but is this something then that she said to the police in her statement? I mean, are you just going, we're going on this, the entire relationship between Mr. Santiago and her is not relevant in this case. Every single thing they did.
Your Honor, I'm not saying that every single thing they did is relevant. There are some very specific things that he did that are highly relevant, and of which she has personal knowledge. She's the complainant, Your Honor.
Okay.
I mean, this isn't a fishing expedition. This isn't some wild guess. The state has furnished the discovery. It's there, Judge. And whether Mr. Economist read it or not, I'm not responsible for that.
Well, has read what? The discovery in the case? Are you suggesting I haven't read the discovery in the case? You don't mean that, do you?
Far from it.
Okay. Now, Your Honor, may I respond to that, if I may? I want to say, first of all, that there's something that's very troubling to me, because I heard counsel say in the presence of the jury, because of alleged complicity between this witness and Santiago in the death of the child. Okay? That's a very troubling statement unless there is a very good faith basis for making that statement, and I don't think there is based on the evidence, then that was a highly improper thing to say in the presence of this jury. Because she's not on trial and Santiago is not on trial here. And I understand what my burden is, and that is to prove, and this is not a circumstantial case either, by the way. This case now has direct evidence. She was an eyewitness to the killing of the child and the assault upon herself, okay? Even if it were a circumstantial case, okay, then the only thing that would come, I would have to exclude, the state would, all reasonable hypotheses save that of the guilt of the accused. But this is a direct case. This is a case where there is direct evidence, and so bringing in evidence with respect to a supposition that she and the father somehow got together to kill the child, and saying that in front of the jury, in a case where there's direct evidence, first of all, I think that was way out of line. That was not the place to say that. Way out of line. Okay? I understand attacking the credibility of a witness in impeachment very, very well indeed. But when we start talking about what do you think of Santiago's brain and whether he's schizophrenic or obsessive compulsive, and what do you know about what the police say about him or think about him, is more than collateral issues, Your Honor. And I think we need to get to what is the question I have is, where are we going with this cross-examination?
Your Honor,
What is the point? Where, maybe Mr. Goff, who was one of the very effective counsel, no question about that, in anybody's mind, but I would really like to know, because I've got to deal with this witness, and I'm a prosecutor on behalf of the state, where are we going with this cross-examination? What's the end here? Apart from impeachment, which he has a right to do and to show bias and things of that nature, where are we headed?
Your Honor,
Can I ask, wait a minute, I want to deal with one lawyer. I'm not going to deal with two lawyers. Your Honor, I mean, I think I have a right to deal with Mr. Goff on this, and he with me. Ms. Johnson hadn't gotten up. So where are we going? Where are we going?
Mr. Lockwood and Mr. Goff has this witness under, I usually don't let lawyers flip-flop in the middle of an exam. Mr. Goff?
if we're going to start applying that rule now, Your Honor, it's yours,
So
it's court's
far we
discretion.
applied it the whole trial.
It's the court's discretion. Your Honor, there are several police reports that were filed, one on April 8th, dispatched to Union Street in regard to a problem with a person. Someone identified as Sherry Woods said her baby's daddy, subsequently identified as Louis Santiago, came to her house, knocked on the front window, demanded food, and yelled, "You killed my baby." She said she was going to call the police if he did not leave. Mr. Santiago came back at 19:30 to the same window, stuck a stick in the window, trying to move the blinds to see if she was home. Actually, I think...
The police report that Ms. West filed?
Yes, Your Honor, provided by the state in this case. Your Honor, when we talk about motive and bias and credibility, I really prefer that we not be arguing this motion in the presence of the witness. I think that might be helpful for our examination not to do that. But we can do that if we're directed. But these are police reports filed by Ms. West. So it's not a question of whether she has knowledge. Now, in terms of what it's relevant to, Your Honor, the motive and bias and credibility of these witnesses are at the heart of this case. And we have...
And I understand that, but, we can't throw out that, that's not a catch-all that incorporates everything, if in fact she had a bracelet stolen 10 years ago and she filed a police report on a bracelet stolen and she thinks that Aunt Louis Santiago stole it, would that be relevant today? Would that be worth going into? I'm
Certainly not, Your Honor.
Okay.
Certainly not. But we're not talking about things that are remote in time. We're not talking about things that have no logical connection, no nexus to the charges before this court. We're talking about that stuff that is directly related to it. Here is Miss West tells the police that Mr. Santiago came over banging on her bedroom window, yelling that she killed
what's
his
the
baby.
date of this? What is the date that you're referring to?
5/3/2013.
After the crime occurred?
In the same time frame that she's telling the jury that she wants to have a baby with this man. She's had him arrested several times. In fact, he's sitting in the jail now, as Your Honor well knows, on a stalking or stalking-related charge. It's certainly relevant to the jury that she says she's trying to have a baby with this man, that she wouldn't kill her child because she wants to have another, in the middle of all this domestic stuff.
So it comes out now.
But let him finish. I'll give you time, Ari. Okay.
Your Honor, it's highly relevant to the relationship between these parties. It's relevant to the credibility of this witness and her description of why she's done the things to which she's already testified. A jury is certainly entitled to take that into account in determining whether they're going to credit her testimony or which parts they're going to credit, and assessing her motive or bias with respect to her testimony in this case. This is a Sixth Amendment Confrontation Clause issue, and I well understand the court's desire to maintain control of these proceedings, and I certainly appreciate that. At the same time, my client's constitutional rights demand that he, under both the state Constitution and the federal Constitution, demand that he have an opportunity to thoroughly cross-examine the witness. And I resent First, I resent Mr. Economo constantly objecting, sometimes apparently simply for the purpose of disrupting the examination. And second, I will not stand here and allow Mr. Economo to badger me and attack me for responding to his objections in the presence of the jury when he makes those objections in the presence of the jury. If he did want me to have the conversations he's complaining about in front of the jury, he should have asked to go to sidebar like the rest of us adults do.
Adults?
Kahneman?
Well, I am going to object to every question that defense counsel asks that I think I have a valid objection to make on behalf of the state. And if it's every question and I think I've got a basis to do it, I'm going to do it. And I will continue to do it. And I will never stop doing it. And if we want to just resume and start this questioning again because he won't proffer where it's going, I think I heard it. She's guilty with her husband of killing the kid. That's what he's saying here.
No,
That's
Your
what
Honor.
I heard. And so now she's on trial. Isn't that what I heard? That's what I'm hearing in this.
No, I think what Mr.
But that's not
Economo
what
heard
he
is
did.
what...
Oh, one at a time.
So, that's fine, Your Honor. We'll resume and I'll object and the court can rule and we'll be here as long as we have to be.
All right, Mr. Goff, the court wants to know, because the court finds that the relationship, okay, between her and her friend that she has a child with, okay, as rocky as it may be, as good as it may have been, is a collateral issue is to what we're here on trial for, okay? It is not directly relevant to the guilt or innocence of your client, okay? And I mean, it's, if she had a fight with her neighbor and filed a police report against her neighbor, okay? I mean, where does the court draw the line? I mean, where are you wanting, there has to be there's got to be a circle here, okay? And now you're asking about a domestic problem that they had 2 months after the death of this child.
Your Honor, they're also...
I mean, how is tell the court on the record how the domestic dispute 2 months after the death of this child has a relevancy to the death of this child. I want to know on the record.
Your Honor, those are a continuation of the same issues that preceded the death of the child, to which the witnesses already testified. When she talks to the police officers the night that her child is shot and says, well, you people already know us or already know Luis Santiago, she's not referencing the incidents that happened after. She's referencing incidents that happened before. We're simply tying them all together. Now, in particular, Your Honor, I'm shocked that Mr. Economo would suggest that inquiring whether the father accused her of killing his child repeatedly in the middle of the night, I'm shocked that he would question the relevance of that to this case. I mean, if that's not relevant, I just don't know what...
Off this court, if you want to ask her if she killed her child, you can ask her that, okay? I'm not going to restrict your cross-examination, but I do want to know how you are tying in the fact that a couple has a domestic dispute, how you make that jump that they killed their baby. I mean, isn't that what you've got to do?
Your Honor, let's be clear.
I mean,
all we have asserted so far in this case is that one or both parents may have a role in the death of this child. We haven't actually said anything beyond that.
How does the fact that they have had some domestic disputes increase the likelihood that they are, in fact, I guess, child murderers? That's what I need to know.
Okay. Her own testimony, to be very specific as I can be, her own testimony, as I understand it, on the occasion that I started asking about, was that Luis Santiago was trying to sneak peeks in the window to see his baby, obviously because he didn't feel he had access at that time that he wanted. Your Honor, it's consistent with the theory that Mr. Santiago was obsessed with this child. Whatever the reasons are, whether it's OCD or whatever, it doesn't really matter. But the fact that he was obsessed with the child, if it's true, is certainly relevant. And the stalking behavior to get access to the child that Ms. West describes is highly relevant.
Okay, you've established that the stalking, I mean, you asked her that question. The question is, I guess really how much further do I let you go into? Do I let you go into every single domestic dispute this couple's ever had? I don't know how long they've been together. This trial would never end.
Your Honor, all I'm looking for is Ms. West to acknowledge that their relationship was troubled. That's all. That's one word, troubled. I don't need any more. But if I have to,
Well, if you want, is that the question that you want to ask her? You want
Yes.
to ask her that one question? I mean,
Yes, that's the question I want to ask her.
okay, the court will permit you to ask the question, was in fact your relationship with him troubled?
We had troubles in our,
Jury's not here.
oh, I'm sorry.
All right, the jury.
She was planning to, no, but she would make a statement that she wanted to have, was planning to have.
Be seated, please.
Mr. Call, you may continue.
Ma'am, is it fair to say that your relationship with Luis Santiago was troubled?
Yes.
Ma'am, I'd like to go back to the identification that you testified to earlier. I originally referred to the photos read as defendants 4, and then we substituted reference to state 45, I believe. Are those exhibits still up with you? Oh, they're not. Clever. We found it. Ma'am, you recall seeing States 45 before, do you not?
Yes.
Ma'am, did you describe either of the attackers as wearing earrings?
No, I didn't.
So you'd agree that the subject wearing the earrings obviously would not be one of those who attacked you?
No, I said I don't remember.
Well, you'd agree that the subject with the earrings couldn't be the shooter?
No, I said that I couldn't see his ears.
Okay, all right. Now, the subject that's number 5, would you describe his hair as asymmetrical?
The one that's next to the shooter?
Next to the individual you've identified as the shooter.
What's asymmetrical mean?
Is there more hair on one side of his head than the other?
It seems to look that way.
Okay. You didn't describe either of the individuals having hair like that, did you?
No.
One of these, you described the subject as having big lips, didn't you?
Full lips, I said.
Full lips. And at least one of these subjects is biting their lip or pulling their lip down where you can't see it.
I don't recall that.
Wouldn't you agree that when they presented you those 6 pictures, you were immediately able to rule out at least 3 of them?
I ruled out all of them, I believe, except the shooter.
Well, now, you described the shooter in this case as wearing a red sweatshirt?
Yes.
Okay. Now, of the 6 subjects up there, is it not fair to say that 5 of them are wearing a black or dark colored shirt?
It looks that way.
Only one subject is wearing a shirt that could conceivably be red.
I don't recall that.
Well, you'd agree that one subject, subject number 4, the shirt he's wearing is lighter, substantially lighter, and therefore different from the other 5.
It looks lighter.
When you say that you're positive in your identification, are you sure that your identification isn't based in part on his photo and that of the others?
No, I've seen his face.
All right. But even after now, when the police came to your house to have you make this identification, you told them that you were not certain.
I don't recall that.
You told them that you thought it was the one.
No, I don't recall that.
You told them that you were pretty sure it was the one.
I don't recall that.
And then you recall Detective Smith bringing you the photo spread and pointing out where you should sign to say that you were certain of your identification.
No, I identified him.
You don't recall her being the first person to say that you were certain of your identification?
After I identified him.
Well, ma'am, the first time she asked you to sign where you were certain, you asked to take it back and look at it some more, didn't you?
I wanted to make sure.
And even after you looked at it the second time, your words were still, I think that's him. I'm pretty sure that's him.
No, I said that's him.
And in fact, it was the detective who basically showed you the form and showed you where to mark that you were certain.
Could you repeat the question?
It was the detective who showed to you the form twice and showed you where to mark that you were certain before you ever actually used that word yourself.
No, I was certain.
Ma'am, you weren't certain days afterward, were you?
No, I was certain.
Do you remember a reporter coming up to you and showing you a picture of Marky Elkins on his cell phone?
Yes, I do.
And then you called the police.
No, I told that reporter that they got the right man.
You called Detective Smith and you asked her whether or not you had identified the right person.
No, I said to the reporter that they got the right man.
And then you called the police officer to make sure that you were correct on March 24th.
I don't recall that.
And then you pumped the detective for more information about the case to satisfy yourself that you'd made the right decision.
No, I wanted to make sure that he was going to be indicted.
And the detective had to tell you that she couldn't answer your questions.
She had mentioned that she will let me know when she could.
All right. Your Honor, at this time we have a CD or disc of the identification video from Ms. West's apartment. It was one of, I believe, 3 videos that the state previously asked us to play during the examination of Detective Smith. We're ready to do that now. Mr. Lockwood, if you could help me. I guess I need to turn this off.
This has been tendered as a state exhibit or defense exhibit or both, or?
No, we're tendering as Defendant's Exhibit 39. We believe it's duplicative of the same disc that the state has already submitted. We can try and locate that, but we're ready to play 39 now, and we can address that issue later.
Objection to his, okay. Without objection, go ahead and play it.
Okay.
Just take your time.
I think it was him.
Number
That
4.
man right there, that boy.
Can I borrow your book here?
Sure.
Okay. Right here where it says response, I'm gonna fill out this information for you, but it says, the subject block that I have checked below is the subject that committed the offense. I am positive of my identification. The second one says, the subject block that I have checked below appears to be the subject involved in the offense, but I am not absolutely positive. And number 3 says, I am unable to identify any of these subjects as being involved or the offense.
Let me look again, just to make sure.
Take your time, you don't.
That really does look like him.
You just take your time. And then he said it's something about the eyebrows and all that. So
Yeah, I think that was him. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And just sign.
Number 1 says, the subject block that I have checked below is the subject that committed the offense. I am
What
positive.
number is that?
Number 4, I'm positive of my identification. Okay?
Okay.
Take the pledge, will you witness this one?
They should buy that picture.
you want me to witness the opposite?
Huh?
Witness the opposite.
Witness.
Hearing.
No.
Okay.
You get her to initial that picture?
Initial by the picture.
The initial by number 4.
Okay.
Okay.
This was as Detective Smith told you, Chief Green, City Police Department.
Right.
Our apologies. Our disc we can't play our copy. The state's copy will actually play right side up.
Is that your copy?
That's our copy, not the state copy.
Okay.
I was discretion of the court. We're used to looking sideways at the video. We can find the state's copy of this and play it correctly.
It's been published. I think the jury could, for one time, they're shaking their head. They saw it fine.
They're satisfied, I'm satisfied. Ma'am, directing your attention back to the moments after the shooting. Do you recall that there were, I think you've already testified to a taller white gentleman with a beard that came to your assistance?
Yes.
And then there were several other civilians, several other women there?
No, just one woman from the yellow house.
That's the house across the street.
Yes.
And then who arrived first at the scene?
police.
Okay. I take it a number of cars arrived.
Yes.
Some in front of Miss Smith.
I'm sorry.
Some arrived before Detective Smith.
I'm not sure who arrived first.
Okay. But there were a number of police officers on the scene.
Yes.
And then the EMTs arrived.
Yes.
And the first people you spoke to about what happened were the EMTs.
No. They were detectives.
Detective Smith.
Yes.
And then you talked to the EMTs.
I didn't talk to the EMTs about my baby. They would not tell me if he was alive or dead.
All right. But they overheard your conversations with the police.
I'm not sure.
Ma'am, is it fair to say that several people have said that you only identified one subject? You know that to be true.
Objection, Your Honor, without identifying who several people are, the witness cannot answer the question.
I'll rephrase. Do you know of any
Raise the
reason
question.
why the EMTs would say that you referred to only one child?
Objection, Your Honor, on what supposition the EMTs may have had in their head as to why she may have referred to whatever she said.
Same.
Initially, you only made reference to one child.
I said one young man shot my baby.
And that's the person you were talking about initially.
I wasn't talking about him. I was crying about my baby, wondering if he was alive.
And you alternately described that person as a man and a child.
I said a young man and a child.
Now, the officers on the scene, they did have police radios,
Yes.
and they were on their belts or on their lapels.
I heard them.
So you could hear the radio traffic that was going out.
Yes.
And somewhere between 9:25 and 9:35, you overheard radio traffic about two suspicious-looking black men around George Street at Albany.
No, I never heard that.
Never heard that. All right. Are you sure your recollection of there being two people involved in this case wasn't a response to the radio traffic you were hearing?
No.
That couldn't be.
No, because I was talking to the detectives about my own injury.
So you never wavered from beginning to end that there were always two attackers.
Yes.
Yet you never actually described anything that the second attacker did to you.
He was hiding behind the other young man.
What is it that the other child did to you so that you believe that he was attacking you?
He was with the older boy, the young man, and I thought he was going to jump out and kill my baby.
You thought the 5-year-old was going to jump out and kill your baby?
I thought he had a real gun, yes.
You thought the 5-year-old had a gun too?
Yes.
Is it possible that the 5-year-old did have a gun? Is it possible there was more than one weapon involved in this case?
That asks for speculation and conjecture.
Your Honor, she's just said that she thought the second child was going to pull out another gun.
God said it was possible.
I'm going to object to Mr. Economo
Nope.
commenting on my examination.
I'm gonna let you ask if it was possible, there if it was two guns. Okay? Overrule the objection.
Ma'am, is it possible there were two guns out there at the time your son was shot?
No, I only saw one.
Can you articulate for me, explain to the jury what it is that the second child did that led you to believe that he was part of this attack?
He was hiding behind the other boy.
And because of that, you have told people that the 5-year-old should spend the rest of his life in prison?
Your Honor, I object to the question. Guilty
Same.
innocence is not any more punishment.
Ma'am, I'm just trying to figure out why you feel so strongly in the abstract about this second child that you say you were never able to see and can't identify exactly what he did.
Is that a question, Mr.
Yes,
Gold?
it is.
Okay.
Can you repeat the question?
You feel very strongly about not only the shooter, but about both of these individuals.
That's a rhetorical question?
I'm not sure how to characterize the question. I simply would like you to answer it.
I assumed that he was. I actually believed that he was going to hurt my baby also.
And that's why you feel so strongly about both.
I believe that that he may have had a real gun if that one wasn't.
Well, are we not fairly safe in assuming right now that the gun that the shooter had was a real gun?
Yes.
Because a moment ago you expressed some doubt as to whether the shooter was using a real gun.
In the beginning, I thought it was a fake gun, yes.
But as we stand here today, you don't have that doubt.
Obviously not.
Your strong feelings about the other child are because you thought he might have a gun too?
Yes. I also thought he was going to strangle my baby or something.
Okay. I'm curious why you would be fearful that the 5-year-old would strangle your baby after you've already testified to the child being shot at point-blank range in the forehead. Did you really have any doubt at that point?
I meant before he shot him.
Well, what was it about the 5-year-old that led you to think that he was about to...
Because he did not look afraid when he walked towards me. He looked like he was skipping down the street and talking to the big boy.
Well, you're aware that the other child, Dominique Lang, is also charged with felony murder in this case.
I'm aware of that.
What's your understanding of what he did to cause the death of baby Antonio?
Objection, Your Honor. Irrelevant to the question of the guilt or innocence of these defendants as to what she thinks Dominique Lang did to cause him to be charged.
Saying it's the former equipment, Mr. Goff, you can ask her what Donna Lang actually did all day long, okay? But
Well, as far as I can tell, her testimony, he didn't do anything. I'm just trying to figure out if he didn't do anything, then why did you ask the district attorney to indict him, and why do you feel so strongly about him being punished?
Objection, Your Honor. The district attorney doesn't indict anybody. The grand jury indicts people. And the decision as to whether to indict is up to the grand jury, and the question is improper, but it's irrelevant.
sustain the objection.
Ma'am, you've testified that you saw these 2 young black men run eastward on London Street. And I guess I need to, may I approach witness again, Your Honor, with State 53? Directions from the clerk about the wires. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ma'am, your testimony earlier was after the shooting, the 2 young black men ran east on London Street. Directing your attention to the red push pin at the corner of London and Ellis, can you show the jury, you can borrow my pen if you like, show the jury in which direction you saw the boys run. Was it east or west?
I believe it was towards Egmont Avenue.
And that would be east. Yes?
I believe so.
Okay. And if they were running east on London Street, isn't there a longshoreman's office on London Street?
I'm not sure.
You couldn't see people out on London Street down that way?
No.
Didn't someone else say that they saw people on London Street and they wanted to interview them?
Objection, Your Honor, as to who someone else is, if he's got a specific
Same.
person or not.
Ma'am, is there any possibility that these suspects actually ran westward on London Street?
No.
towards Union Street?
No, I don't believe so.
Well, if they had run westward on London Street, they were, let's count the distance to this housing project here. That would be from Union Street. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks to the housing project there?
It's possible.
Okay. Or they're going to run to the east in front of the Longshoremen or Glen Academy and the Housing Authority parking lot and the other housing project with the video cameras on. Yes?
I believe so.
And of course, just north of where this took place was the post office, was it not? 6 blocks north of where the shooting took place was the post office you went to that morning.
It was quite a distance.
Not too long to walk on a cold day.
I didn't think it was that long.
It's fair to say that the post office doesn't sit by itself, does it?
I'm sorry?
The post office is not sitting there on Union Street by itself, is it?
The post office is on Gloucester Street.
Yes. And what's the post office inside?
What's the question?
But what building is the post office inside?
Well, the federal courthouse is housed in the post office.
Along with the U.S. Probation Office and other federal offices.
I suppose.
And the FBI office is next to it in the Bank of America building.
I suppose it's inside there, yeah.
And behind them, going north, you would run into the state probation office, would you not?
I'm not familiar with that.
And you'd run into the state courthouse and the district attorney's office and the Glenn County Detention Center. You'd agree that going north would not be a wise route to escape.
They ran down London Street in front of the yellow house. I saw them run.
And whichever way they went that way, they were going to be going by police officers and security cameras. You would agree.
The police officers weren't there yet. They ran first.
Yeah. Directing your attention back to States 53. And I'm going to come back and let you take a good, long look at the aerial photograph of the city of Brunswick.
Well, I'm not very good with maps, so your geography don't mean anything to me.
Well, I'm not good with maps either, but I'm going to do this.
I know street signs.
You know street signs.
That's correct.
Okay.
And they ran towards Albany Street.
Even though the shorter and safer path of escape was to the south and the west. That's your recollection?
Obviously, they didn't want to go back to the way they came.
Ma'am, is there any reason why you might have deliberately told the police officers that people ran in a direction other than their actual exit?
No, I was glad they ran away from us so that they couldn't shoot us again.
Let me rephrase. Is there any reason why on that morning you would have wanted to misdirect the police in their investigation?
No.
Your identification of the other shooter as a 5 or 6 year old / dwarf, is it possible that you deliberately misidentified the other person?
No.
With respect to the weapon that was involved, did you not initially tell the police that the weapon involved was a Luger?
Well, I said it was small like one.
The word you used was it was a Luger.
No, I said it looked like one.
German pistol, World War II era pistol.
Recall that.
You're familiar that a Luger is in fact a German World War II era pistol.
I've seen them on movies.
And there's no such thing as a .22 caliber long rifle Luger, is there?
I had no idea it was a .22. I knew it was a revolver, that's all.
You knew it was a small caliber weapon, right?
Yes,
Because you thought it was a toy.
that's correct.
You told the police officers it looked like a Luger.
Yes.
And that was an accidental, mistaken description?
I don't know the exact description of a German Luger.
Wouldn't agree, based upon your dealings with all these prosecutors and federal and state and law enforcement people and sheriffs and your visits to the pawn shops and watching things on TV, you wouldn't agree that it would be hard to find two handguns that look less alike than a German Luger and a .22 caliber revolver.
I'm not sure if a German Luger has a revolving cartridge. I just said it was small like one.
Ma'am, have you seen the pictures from the crime scene? And I don't wish to be indelicate. I know it brings back horrible memories. But have the police not shown you those photos before?
It's possible.
And were you not, they had already started that process of photographing the crime scene while you were still out there.
I suppose.
Well, do you know of any reason? Did you say something to the police maybe that led them to take all these pictures and devote all this attention to the front of the house at 708 London Street where the baby was when the police arrived? Is there something you did or said that led them to think that that was the scene of the shooting?
No, that's where I performed CPR on my baby.
So you never told anyone at the Brunswick Police Department that that was where the shooting took place?
Never.
Because later in the reenactment, you're walking the police halfway down Ellis Street, aren't you?
It was next to the Blue House.
Well down Ellis Street between the 800 and the 900 block.
That's correct.
But you didn't do anything to lead the police to investigate the crime scene in the wrong place. You had nothing to do with that. They just, on their own, set up and took all these pictures and made all these measurements and all in the wrong place. You had nothing to do with that.
I wasn't watching. I was too concerned for my baby.
At the time that you were telling them where the shooting took place, you knew there were people on London Street, but you didn't know that Mr. Van Eden was walking behind you on Ellis Street. Did you?
I didn't see him until after the boys ran.
Ma'am, is it possible that you changed the given location of the shooting?
No.
Ma'am, I'd like to talk some more about the interview at the Glenn County Police Department. Is it fair to say that you were extremely nervous when the police officers put you in the interrogation room?
I was sick before I walked into the police department.
Okay. Well, something happened to make you more sick while you were sitting there? Ma'am, is it fair to say that you were terrified at the time that you were being interviewed by the police? You were scared.
I was very upset.
You were angry.
I was really sad.
You were angry.
I suppose.
You were nervous.
I was upset.
And what's the first thing you ask the police to do when you come in the room, when they come in the room for the interview?
Could you repeat that?
What's the first thing that you asked the police officers to do when they came in to start their questioning? Did we have to swap out the chairs in the interview room?
Yes. I urinated from the IV.
You're saying that that had nothing to do with your nerves?
No.
Anger. Is it possible that you were having some kind of psychotic episode while you were being interviewed by the police? Is that possible?
No.
describe the statements you made during the interview with the Gwinn County Police Department on the evening of March 21st, you wouldn't describe those statements as bizarre? I'm sorry, ma'am. Do you need a moment? We can give you all the time you need.
Can you repeat the question?
Would it be fair to say that your behavior and statements during your interview with the police on March 21st were bizarre?
My behavior was according to what happened.
Possible that you suffered a psychotic episode, perhaps.
No,
in
it's
response to
not.
the shooting.
No,
That's
it's not.
possible. Do you not recall the police officers coming back into the room and asking to check your purse in the middle of the interview?
Yes, they did.
They searched your purse, didn't they?
And they also searched my home.
They searched your purse in the middle of the interview. Yes?
That's correct.
They were looking to see whether you had any weapons.
I believe so.
You don't think that was a response to what you were saying?
No.
Do you know a Dr. Al-Jabi?
I'm familiar with the name.
Well, you're not just familiar with the name. He was, for a brief period of time, the pediatrician that was responsible for your child.
Briefly.
Okay. And you changed doctors.
I questioned his ability, yes.
Questioned his ability. But during the interview, you questioned something more, didn't you?
I don't recall that.
You don't recall suggesting to the police that Dr. Al-Jabi, a licensed MD practicing in Brunswick, Georgia, had something to do with the death of your child?
I never said that.
You never suggested that he had something to do with it?
I don't recall that.
Just like you never suggested that the crackhead or supposed crackhead in the apartment next to you might have had something to do not only with the death of baby Antonio, but also with the death years earlier of your son Sean Glassy in New Jersey?
I never said that she was responsible for Antonio's death.
You would agree that those conclusions were not supported by any objective facts.
She was angry at me, no doubt.
You do admittedly suffer from paranoia, yes?
That's correct.
Possible that you were having an episode at this time when you were making these wild suggestions
No.
about Dr. Al-Jabi?
No, I don't have episodes.
Okay, you have a mental illness, but you don't have any symptoms?
I fear people. It's very difficult for me to be sitting here right now.
Like a break.
Please.
Your Honor.
All right, we'll take a 10-minute recess. All rise to the jury.
All rise for the jury.
Recess for 10 minutes.